Under what circumstances would you go hunting with Sarah Palin?
Any circumstances.
All right.
I understand she's a good hunter.
Yeah,
so
probably safe.
It's all good.
Better chances than the vice president.
Yeah.
What does the phrase "lost in the wilderness" mean to you right now?
I use a different phrase. I use the phrase Dr. Phil moment of self-analysis. There's going to be this inevitable internal debate about where the Republican Party is and where it's headed. I think it boils down to two things. Those who are going to say it's got to be more conservative and get back to its roots. Others who say it's got to be more modern. Not to be confused with moderate, but
Right.
I think those two things can be harmonized, can be fused together in a way that allows us to be both a conservative and a contemporary or fresh party. And so, like a computer screen, I think the screen has kind of gone. We need to hit the refresh button for the Republican Party.
Gotta hit restart?
Yeah. Well, maybe not restart, at least refresh. We don't have to
Have you had an
reboot,
ultimate fail and need to abort, restart, or retry? Well, I was actually going to say, what do Republicans have to be optimistic about right now?
Well, a number of things. First of all, I think you've got good talent, particularly amongst Republican governors, that will help lead the way out of this problem. I think you have a strong marketplace signal that's going to force us to respond differently, because you can't be a majority governing party when you essentially can't compete in the Northeast. You lose all or nearly all of the Great Lakes states. You lose all of the West Coast states. You lose increasing numbers of Western states. You lose several Mid-Atlantic states. You're behind with women. You're behind with Hispanics. You're behind with African Americans. You're behind with younger voters. And the other side's raising more money and got you beat by 15 years in technology.
Unless you
That's
just
not
want
a
to
formula. That is not a formula for success. So there's a lot of work to do, but that's what we're facing,
Right.
and that's a candid, I think, assessment of it. And so we have to reconnect with our customers and the people that we serve, and we have not done a good job with that.
And to think of them as customers, that would be sort of a leap right there, I think.
Well, we serve them. I mean, they are our bosses and our customers. And part of the challenge, I think, with the Republican Party is that we have to do a better job communicating, not just tactically in terms of the technology, but the ability to explain and communicate is an important way to connect with people. And Barack Obama beat us almost 2-1 with younger voters, in part because of his message, but in part because he had a platform and an environment technologically that was welcoming and engaging. Mm-hmm. They found it welcoming and engaging, and he made it welcoming and engaging. Of course, having $1 billion to spend makes that somewhat easier. But that's one example of many of how we need to change our behavior.
I've heard you describe yourself as a traditional mainstream conservative, although I don't think of you as that. What is it about you personally, you think, that makes liberals like me not frightened of you?
Well, I consider myself a mainstream conservative in the it's a worn out, but Reagan tradition. But if you look at the whole Reagan record, he people don't only look at part of the record. Part of it was he was pragmatic. Mm-hmm. He was optimistic. He was hopeful. He was civil. He was positive. But I think the Republican Party has to be more contemporary. I mean, we're slow to respond on.
You don't mean moderate. You don't mean moderate. So
well, let me give you some real
decode
examples.
that a little bit.
Yeah, I will
for me.
decode it for you. Do I have 2 minutes, Tony? Yeah, let me give you a couple.
I have
a
one
couple
follow-up
of
question after this.
A couple of tangible examples. We were behind on the energy debate. It was a huge need. It's part of the reason we're in this economic trouble. Instead of scrambling to come up with some stuff over the last year or two, like we did as a national party, we should have been doing what Minnesota and some other individuals and groups have done, addressing this aggressively 15 or 20 years ago. Drill baby drill is not by itself a comprehensive contemporary energy strategy. We should have been the party not being dragged to the renewable energy debate. We should have been out leading it with our approaches and ideas and incentives for it. That's an example. Another example would be, just the bread and butter issues. I won't go through them all because your eyes will glaze over. But one actual example. Okay, people are worried about how am I going to pay for my kids' tuition.
Right.
Republicans could be very modern, reach out to young people by saying, we're going to reduce your tuition, and here's how we're going to do it, and we're going to make the programming have more variety, it's going to be more accessible, and it's going to be more technologically savvy, it's going to look more like an iPod than a 1940s assembly line. We're going to offer money to regional universities or universities who can put all or most of their degrees online. And we're going to help pay for it. Instead of building more buildings, we're going to migrate the delivery of higher education services online. And once you add one more student to an online program, the marginal cost is zero. And so instead of having a debate about tuition going up X percent or Y percent, we could be talking about tuition going down X percent or Y percent. And by the way, you can access it anywhere, anytime, best of class. And that would, I think, relate to young people. It would be technologically current. It would be talking about reforming the way we deliver a service. It would be about providing it better, cheaper, faster. It would be cool.
It would be.
Now that would be cool. Now
cool
that,
I don't know if I'd use the word cool to describe, studying, but it'd be very modern.
It's
It'd
one
be very,
example of how
I personally think it would be cool.
Application of Republican ideas could actually help people do things better, faster, quicker, cheaper.
You're not mentioning social issues at all, which I think, is that just something that Republicans are going to not have a debate about anymore?
I think it's unrealistic to ask people or to think that people who are very passionate about their core values to throw them out the window. They're not going to do that. And so, the fact of the matter is the Republican Party, and most people, not all, tends to be a socially conservative party. It's going to stay that way because people aren't going to take their values and throw them out the window, nor should they be asked to.
At the end of it all, are you kind of glad you didn't get the VP nod?
I never started the exercise of my support of John McCain with that in mind. I mean, I genuinely admire the man. He is one of my personal heroes, a great deal of respect for him. And so it was a labor of love for me to help him. It's an honor to have your name mentioned, and it is exciting to have your name mentioned, but I am grateful for what I have, not ungrateful for what I don't have.
Indeed, you might be grateful that you didn't get it, but
in light of the way it all turned out, it may not be the worst thing that I did get it.
Last question. If Al Franken wins, do you think that Minnesota will bear responsibility for people like Chris Matthews running for Senate? Like, you have the wacky guy. Like Terry McAuliffe in Virginia.
Well, I think it's sort of,
you make it look like anyone can do it.
Without regard to any reference to Al Franken or Chris Matthews. The reality of it is that it's because we've become such an entertainment culture.
Yeah.
People gravitate towards fame, novelty, marketing, money. I don't agree with all that, but the public has some attraction to those things. So I think in the future you will see more celebrity candidates for that reason.